Hotep, my name is Suten Aten, and my goal and my purpose in speaking to you is to connect you to your inner higher self. It's very important when you know yourself and know thyself, which is an ancient African principle in saying that it's important for us to look at ourselves and be able to reflect upon the different aspects of ourselves. There are 4 different aspects of ourselves. And in the evolution of the YouTubes, you will find that I will be doing a step-by-step analysis so that we will be able to be aware and conscious of these different aspects of self, these different dimensions of self, the different levels of self. And so we spoke, and I spoke upon the 4 aspects of self, which is the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And I may not go in the order of physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. I may just go by how spirit dictates to me what particular aspect of self that I'll focus on a particular video. For the last couple of videos, I've been focusing on the mental aspects of ourselves. And there's a term called differentiation. Differentiation is important because I'm getting ready to expound upon the spirit aspects of ourselves, the spiritual aspects, which is very important. There's 4. And the spiritual aspect is very important because a lot of us have been trained to think of spirit a particular type of way. We've been conditioned to think about spirit in a particular type of way. And so it is my position to give you another point of view of what we call spirit. Now, the definition of spirit from an ancient standpoint represents breath. So the very fact of you being able to breathe is an aspect of spirit. I want to give you a physical metaphor so you can connect with it physically, because spirit itself, you don't see it necessarily on the physical plane. You see the manifestations of spirit on the physical plane. Spirit, in relation to who we are, represents our vitality, represents the purpose, represents the reason we are here. And so spirit manifests all through our bodies. It's so close to us that it's hard for us to even identify with it and see it unless we have a certain type of knowledge, and that knowledge gives us a certain type of attention, and that attention gives us a certain type of awareness. So awareness is the key to be able to see beyond what you've been taught. And the affirmations that will give you insight in that, if you speak these affirmations daily, then you'll be able to connect with spirit on another level. Some things are so profound, some things are so deep that it can't be discussed. Language, at best, will describe certain experiences. Language in words, at best, will describe spirit. But the only way that you really can understand spirit is to experience what we call spirit. And so with that, there's affirmations that will intune you and enable you to go to a certain frequency. Frequency is important. Sound is important because frequency and sound attunes your mind on a certain level. Learning on a higher level from an ancient African standpoint means going into a certain type of trance, attention, focusing on. And when you're in that trance and focusing, then you're able to take in the information from many multi-dimensional levels, from a physical level, from an emotional level, from a mental level, and a spiritual level. It all combines. Because what we call learning is when we're able to process certain type of information. But we process information from the 4 different levels, from a physical, from an emotional, from a mental, and a spiritual. So the affirmations that I give you will be given you through these different videos will awaken latent potentials in you, will awaken certain things that's in you that's asleep, because the majority of us, a majority of human beings, are asleep. And when I say that, it's funny how movies and the media and the world will present things to you to teach you certain things, but because you are asleep and you're not awoke, they can put things right in front of your face in the media, right in front of your face in movies, right in front of your face in entertainment, that's right there in front of your face, but you don't see it. And they do that purposely. The best way to hide something is to put it right in front of your face. So metaphorically, one example is when you see movies like The Walking Dead, you see zombies. Well, what it's actually saying that the masses of people are like zombies, and that they are asleep, and that because they're asleep, they're walking around and guided and directed by their lower selves, the lower consciousness, anger, fear, anxiety, jealousy. All these different things make you become a beast. And when you're relating to each other because of anger and because of fear, you literally, in terms of your communication with them, you are literally eating them up. You want to eat them up. You want to destroy them because of the things that has happened to you. And so you're like a zombie because you are asleep. You don't even realize that how you are perceiving things. You don't even realize why you feel the way you feel is because you haven't disciplined yourself and you don't understand the mechanics of the mind and the mechanics of the spirit. And so you become in a certain type of trance that's negative, and you become asleep. And when you're asleep, you can sleepwalk. Sleepwalking, meaning that you're walking and you're doing things, but you don't even realize what you're doing. It takes someone to wake you up. And once you awaken, you shake yourself, and the person tell you, did you know that you did this? Did you know that you did that? Did you see, you understand what was going on? And you say, what you talking about? I don't know nothing about me being a particular type of way. That's because you were asleep. So we must awaken ourselves, because if we don't awaken ourselves, we're like zombies and we walk around in a particular state of mind. With that, going back to what I meant when I said spirit. Spirit in itself is connected to the breath. So breathing is the way that you can connect with spirit, because spirit means breath. When you first came through the womb and doors of your mother, and you first came here and you took that first breath, that was a means of you saying hello. So you came through the doors of your woman, of your mother, from a physical standpoint, and you rode on the wings of the breath of God. So your breath is your connection to the Creator. Your breath is your connection to God. So breathing in when you are upset, breathing in when you're trying to gain knowledge, breathing in when you're trying to communicate, breathing period, and the rhythms of breathing will reveal where you are in terms of your mental state. So breathing, slow, deep breathing is an antidote for depression. Deep breathing is an antidote for anger. Deep breathing is an antidote and a medicine for fear. The medicine that you need comes from within. And you must awaken yourself and come out of the zombie state in order to receive the full understanding and the full knowledge and intelligence of spirit. And so when we talk about spirit, we're talking about a different plane, a different dimension. And the dimensions of the spirit intertwines with physical all the time. But when we speak of sound, as I said in the beginning, and we speak of frequencies, then the higher the frequency, And the higher the sound, it reaches different levels. And frequency, when you talk about multiplying and being fast, I think the best way I can explain it to you is that if you see a fan, and when the fan is going in a circle, slowly you can see the blades going around. But as the blades speed up and go faster and faster and faster, then you can't see the blades anymore. You see a blur. And that's how spirit is. That's how entities in other dimensions are here and intermingle with us because of the different frequencies. We don't even see them. We're not able to hear or see them because of the speed of the frequency that they're on is so high that there's no body because of the high frequency. The lower frequency, you see a realm where there's physical, but the higher frequencies, the higher you go, the faster you go. You see this with the physical eyes, but as you rotate, seeing this and seeing this becomes a blur. Becomes a blur. You don't see it as easily. And so when we talk about the spirit plane and what makes spirit so evasive and so difficult for most people is that you don't see it with the physical eye. And what you have to do is you have to train yourself through knowledge, meditation, and gaining knowledge of how spirit manifests itself through the body and through other aspects of life. The Western world, the scientific world, has a particular approach, and how you approach life, how you envision life, will give you the propensity and the ability to understand and see spirit. And so when we deal with empirical science, we're dealing with surface information, what we see with our physical eyes. And so we will have a certain type psychology called an I and an it. What does that mean? Is that I'm separated from this tree and I'm observing this tree. I'm separated from the ocean. I'm observing the ocean. I'm separated from this animal. I'm separated from this person. So what empirical knowledge does, in empirical science, it separates itself. You are the observer and you're looking at something that observed. That principle in itself is good for what it's good for. But when we speak of an I and a thou, as opposed to an I and it, you the observer and the object is the observed. When we speak of an I and a thou, which is more ancient, when we speak of an I and a thou, which is connected to spirit, then when I look at the tree, I just don't observe the tree. I look at the tree as a part of myself. I'm connected with that tree. When I look at the ocean, it's an I and a thou. It's sacred. So when I look at that ocean, wow, I see myself. I feel my connection. When I look at other life forms, when I look at butterflies, when I look at bees, when I look at other aspects of life, squirrels, all life forms, then I see that there's a connection, an I and a thou. And it makes me look at life and look at reality totally different than an I and an it. With the I and a thou, I have a connection with this tree, and I know that there's certain things, if I do to this tree, it's going to affect me. I look at the ocean, and if I do certain things in relation to the ocean, then it's going to affect me. An I and a thou, and an I and an it. And so what I'm doing is I'm showing you how you connect with spirit, because spirituality and spirit deals with us understanding how we are connected. That's the first lesson on a physical level, that you will be able to connect to what seems to be invisible. Because when we talk about spirit, you don't see it with the physical eye. So there's another level of seeing, another level of experiencing what we call spirit, and we experience that through nature. We experience that through other life forms. We experience that through how we connect with other human beings. Spirit. One of the most devastating and one of the most enlightening experience that I have had was the death of my mother and my father. I really realized what spirit was because when I went to the homegoing of my mother and I saw her, I knew that that wasn't my mother. The form that I saw wasn't my mother. It was just a form. And that what we call spirit had left. Because when I touched her in the casket, she was hard and cold. So that gave me insight and understanding that spirit represents heat, fire. And you will experience spirit through other human beings because when you hug them, when you embrace them, when you shake someone's hand, you feel the heat. That heat is spirit. When that heat leaves, then people do what you call die. But it's the physical form that dies and disintegrate because the spirit is what maintains the flesh. The spirit is what holds things together. And so with this knowledge, you can use this knowledge that I'm sharing with you and connect it with other things in your life. Remember that heat. Always remember that heat. Feel yourself and you will feel spirit. Spirit is within you. Spirit exists again in you being able to relate to other life forms. And when you look at a squirrel or a rabbit, and you understand spirit works in a particular type of way, and the ancient ones knew that what we call animals and other life forms actually represented different messages from spirit, different messages from the Creator. If you study a squirrel, and this is what the ancient ones done, because the three greatest books that I have read is the book of the human body. The human body is a teacher, and it's spiritual. When you study the human body, then you begin to see spirit and how it operates, and you understand, for one thing, the heart, for instance, that it's a muscular pump that's been pumping ever since you were in the womb of your mother. That's fantastic. That's phenomenal. There's a force that enables that to happen. That spirit, that force in you. And so it's studying the human body, the functions of the human body, the lungs, the heart, the reproductive organs, the reproductive system, the nervous system, the brain, all tells a story in relation to spirit. That there is a force, an intelligence behind all things that exist, that is spirit, externally and outside. Spirit is non-local, meaning that it's not at a particular spot at one time. It's everywhere, all the time. And so that that concept itself is powerful. And when we study the human body, that's a book, it's a reference, it's a paradigm. And what I love about the three books that I'm going to explain, what I love about them is that it has no self-interest. A lot of times when you read the literature or books of human beings, it's filtered through a lot of different things, even though you still can get knowledge and understanding. But when you want to get what I'm saying in terms of spirituality and how you can connect with spirituality, the three books that I'm speaking of is the book of the human body and the book of nature. When you go out in the woods and you see how everything interacts with each other, how the trees interact and how the animals interact with each other, there's a force behind that. There's a entity behind that. And that's why it's important to walk through the country. A lot of people that live in the inner city, they don't participate in this type of activity. But I'm telling young people who sometimes have a problem with understanding spirit, I advise you to walk through the woods in a quiet sense early in the morning. And when you walk through the woods, there's a energy, a space, especially in silence, where you can feel and you can see the animals, you can see the butterflies, you can see all these different life forms and entities working together. And you'll see the little small ants and you'll see all this different activity. That is a result of spirit. And then when we look at the other book, we had the book of the human body, the book of nature. Now we go into this other book, the universe, the sun, the moon, and how things come together. And how a lot of people don't realize that when we talk about time and spirit and in the spirit realm, there's no such thing as time. What we call time is a mental construct. Our brains and our minds constructed a concept called time so that we'll be able to know the difference and how to perform different tasks at a different measurement of experience. Because what the brain has done and what the brain did is to label different increments of experience and call it time. So from here to here, the space in between is called time. The planets, the sun, the moon have been instruments and foundations and paradigms and references for us to call what we call time. We call what we call time because of the movement of the planets. And so if you will look at my hand and you see me going around here, the earth in its rotation, when it hits this part, because when we talk about seasons, seasons are created through the rhythms and cycles and cyclic intervals of the planets. And so when the earth is moving around the sun, it creates a circle. And when it hits this angle, it's called spring. And when it hits this other angle, it's called summer. And when it hits this other angle, it's called autumn. And when it hits this other angle, it's called winter. And so what we perceive as time is a result of our brains being in alignment and synchronizing what the planets are doing. And so this is how the ancient Kemits or the ancient Egyptians created and did a construction of what we call time when you talk about a sundial. And so the sundial was able to be broken and the angles were able to be broken, in increments. Increments, which we call seconds. Increments of what we call minutes. Increments of what we call hours. Increments of what we call days. Increments of what we call weeks. Increments of what we call a month. Increments of what we call a year. So what we call time and the paradigm and the mechanics of it and how it came about and how it comes about through our minds, through us synchronizing what we call light and or day. For us to synchronize what we call night, the contrast, synchronizing our brains. And we begin to label and give what we experience had no words in the beginning. What we experienced as light, we labeled it and called it day. And what we experience as a nighttime, we named it night or darkness, What we labeled as light was day, and what we labeled as darkness became night. And so we experience this, but it also connects us to to spirit, because spirit is the force behind the movement of the planets. Spirit is the force. So I'm going to do more videos on spirit because it's so powerful. And I'm going to let you digest that, eat the meat and spill out the bones. What you can understand, you will be able to grasp. Some of the videos you will have to kind of go over again, because some of the information that I'm giving is somewhat different, but I make it as plain as it could be. Remember what I talked about in the beginning about an I and a thou, and an I and a it. And if you just take in that concept, then it'll be the beginning of you understanding what spirit is. Hotep.